Well, welcome everyone. I'm extremely excited to have our guest for episode number 5 in Lessons in Leadership. It's the first time I've dabbled into the world of public service and politics, but that's not what this podcast is going to be about. As normal, it's going to be about leadership and what can you learn from people I've crossed in my path and either worked for or admired from afar. And in this instance, I've been able as a citizen of Guelph to observe Cam as a mayor, Mr. Mayor Cam Guthrie, that I've had on the show. So thanks for being on the show, Cam.
Absolutely. I just didn't want to be your first guest. I thought I'd get the first 4 out of the way so I could be number 5,
Yeah, I'm ironing out the kinks as we go here. Cam, the reason I brought you on, and I'd love for you to maybe dive a little deeper into your background prior to coming into the role as mayor in business and then as mayor. But what I love about you is, your approachability, and you don't shy away from feedback, and you do it in a manner that's not going to please everybody, but your attempt to keep everybody united, in a world where politics can certainly be a dividing source. You have you're authentic, you're real, you're not going to tell everyone what they want to hear, but you do it in a manner that people are understood, educated, and you try and keep everyone unified. And you've done that from the beginning. And I add that to your approachability. I know you won't remember this because there's 140,000 citizens or just a little less than that in Guelph. But when we moved to Guelph, there was a fundraiser for, I think, United Way down in the park, just beside Bread Bar along the river.
Yes.
And my kids dunked you in a dunk tank.
Oh, yes. I remember that now.
Yeah, and it wasn't that like, oh yeah, I'm the mayor and I got to do the fit. Like, you were sincere, you were engaged. The kids loved it. It's left an impression on them ever since. And you treat social media that way. You are by far in the public space a leader in social media. So I just love that you're approachable. And I thought, hey, here's a good opportunity for someone to talk a little bit about leadership in that domain where you have 140,000 bosses who can fire you every election cycle. And you've done a good job with that. So tell us a little bit about your background before going into politics, if you don't mind.
Sure. And thanks for this opportunity, by the way. It's, we don't know each other that well, but, through interactions in the past and seeing where your life is taking you now and the opportunities that you've really embraced, it's been very, very cool to see you doing this as well. So all the best to you as you're doing this.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Where do I start? It was a cold and windy night. No, I would say I have always been interested in serving and in politics. I guess I could say I've always had a little bit of a bug for it. I remember my dad when I was younger being involved with politics to the degree of like helping put up signs and stuff like that. So he kind of dragged me along on that. So I was always curious about politics, reading like what people stand for in different parties. And even before I was eligible to run for city council, I actually remember calling a longtime councilor here in Guelph, Gloria Kovac, when she was in office, asking like, how do I get into this? And I think I was 15 or 16 years old. And I remember her saying, well, the first thing you got to do is be 18. So anyways, I remember just still like, that was before college and things like that. So I was always just very interested in it. So speaking of college, I graduated obviously high school. And when I graduated high school, it was with OACs or grade 13. And then I went right to college. I didn't go to university. I went to Sir Sanford Fleming College in Peterborough. And I was really, at that time, I was really into sports, really into especially mountain biking, bicycling. I used to work at a bicycle store downtown Guelph for a few years. So I was really into that. And I kind of had this desire to learn how to maybe open my own bicycle store. And at the same time, maybe even work within a sporting goods company. And there was a course at Sir Sanford Fleming called Sporting Goods Business. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So it was a 2-year course. I cannot recommend it enough. It was just so excellent. I had such a great time, really learned a lot. And really it was sales and marketing and, customer service and communications and all that kind of stuff that would be wrapped around a business course. But it just had a little bit of a flavor leaning towards the sporting goods business. So I did that for 2 years. And then right out of college, I started my own business. I was a sales rep. I just started my own sales rep company with Gatorade. And so I did like on-field products, tried to sell like the powder mix that the big drinks would be used, the water bottles, the towels you see the guys have, on the chairs that say Gatorade on them, things like that. And I also did High Sierra backpacks as well, which is still a luggage and backpack company today. And then I got involved with a company called, they did basically a distribution of BMX bicycle gear and things like that. And that really took off. And so I did that for a year or two. And then as much as I was having a good time doing it, I realized I met my wife to be around that time, and I realized, gee, it would be nice to be making a bit more money. And so I started in insurance. My grandfather had his own brokerage here in town that had been purchased by Sutherland and Sons Insurance, which I think has been in Guelph for like 150 years or something like that. And so there was an opportunity to basically start at the bottom, learn the business. And I'll always remember that. So I was making I think it was it was $21,800 a year salary plus benefits. And I was like on cloud nine. I'm like, this is the best, So I did that. I stayed in the insurance industry. I went around to a couple different businesses, brokerages, but I stayed in the insurance industry for 16 years.
Wow.
And for 4 of those last 16 years, I was a city councilor. So I ran for city council and I won. So that was between 2006 to 2010. No. Yes, that's right. And then 2010, I decided to run for, am I saying this right? No, 2010. Just trying to remember the 14. No, the other way around. Fast forward 4 more years. So then the year after my first term as councilor, I then ran for mayor. I won. And then that was 2014 to 2018. And then in 2018, I ran for re-election. And here I am. I'm still the mayor. I got reelected. And the only other thing I'll just say about that background piece is I did run for mayor between 2006, 2010, and I lost that race. And a lot of people don't remember that. I do. You always remember the stuff you lose. But you learn so much when you lose. You learn so much. And so, I didn't let it keep me down. I didn't lose by that much, but I lost that race. And I learned from that, came back stronger, became councilor, became the mayor.
Awesome.
Sorry if that was long-winded.
It's exactly what I wanted. So thank you. Okay. That's a lot to talk about. You did it in a short amount of time. Let me just quickly ask you a sidebar, and I didn't plan for this. You mentioned Sir Sanford Fleming. I had because I did work in sporting retail, and when I worked at Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, I crossed paths with people in the NHL who went through that program. I got to ask you, do you know a Barry Monahan or a Mark McRae or a Jeff Budway by any chance?
The names aren't familiar with me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, maybe, but I don't remember.
All went or taught in that program and have moved on into different roles. So I was just curious.
Yeah, and just so you know, it was, it probably still is today. It was like 98% job placement when you went through that course. And now what's really interesting, a little bit of a plug for the University of Guelph, but they just started a couple of years ago their own sports management program here.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
And it's phenomenal. It's really good.
That's amazing.
So that's kind of interesting that has started up here. And I don't know if if you want to interview another leader in town, Scott Mcroberts.
I know Scott. It's one of the gentlemen I want to get on here. Absolutely.
Yeah, you should talk to him about that because he kind of led the charge on that as the athletic director and as a prof, as a teacher there. And that's a great course now that's being offered by the U of G. So that's really interesting.
Awesome. So a little bit of a retail background, and then that
Yep.
progressed to insurance and leadership all the way through that, and then into public service with, I thought was great, a loss in the lessons learned. It's a common
Yep.
theme with a lot of successful leaders out there. It identifies the gap that you need to close to be successful the next time. So good on you. Let me ask you a question I've always wondered. First of all, I think you're nuts, and I mean that in a complimentary way. I believe I'm a confident person. But I still know one of my deficiencies, Cam, and things I have to improve upon is how I deal with negative feedback. You live that every single day. I mean, I watch the social media posts and people don't hide back behind a keyboard. Why in the world do you go through the aggravation, and why politics?
So I kind of live and breathe a little bit for the friction, if I could call it that.
Okay.
I really believe it's important to stand up for the things that you value and believe in. And so as you said in your intro, and thank you for reading what I sent you. No, I was kidding. I stand up for the things that I believe in. And I also like to correct people. Now that can kind of maybe some people could argue that comes across as me trying to always be right. I don't ever mean it to come across that way, but I like to correct people from an educational point of view to let them try to understand what can or cannot be done within the lane that I'm in as a municipal mayor. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there, which I think makes people get angry about certain things because they think the mayor can control certain things. And the mayor can't control a lot of things that people are angry about sometimes. And so it's important to sort of, engage back, but in a way that educates. And I find that doesn't sometimes just help the individual that might be upset, but that message that gets to public and makes everyone outside of just that one individual understand what's happening. And then the other side of it is this for me. I've always had sort of naysayers about social media and my use of social media. I've always had that. But it is the best thing that I've ever done. And it has allowed me to get my message out that needs to get out. It has allowed me to take a pulse check of the community about things that might not yet be happening, but maybe it's being discussed, being thought of. So to engage with the citizenry about certain things and get their feedback has been invaluable. And then lastly, it's just again a way of putting out, I shouldn't say maybe last, I guess I already addressed it with the first one. It's just getting the message out on certain things and setting the record straight, standing up for people, standing up for myself, standing up for the city. It's a great marketer, not just for myself, but for the brand of Guelph, which is the job of the mayor. You're supposed to be the salesperson for the city. This is a great city. You want to promote and be a cheerleader for people, for businesses, for the ones that are here, businesses that might want to come here. And so I try to push that positive message out about our city out as much as I possibly can too.
Yeah, it's a great use of social media. I think more leaders in public space should see that. And again, I appreciate that you acknowledge you probably have received some criticism for it, but you don't shy away from the friction because you realize it's a megaphone for you, but it's also a listening device for you that you mentioned getting a pulse check. And how do you get that when, the average citizen isn't overly engaged in municipal politics? You don't see them showing up at a large amount of people for city council meetings just to get educated. I know it's on public television and now you guys are doing it online, but you have a great opportunity to spread that message and hear people. And I think that's fantastic. I think more people should be doing it. I love that you aren't afraid to show your personal values and show some passion. So I preface this on LinkedIn about your knock it off post.
Yeah.
Which I love, because I got to tell you, as a parent of 4 people and a business leader, this is unheard of for all of us. It's a first in a century type of thing, and we have to protect each other. And there's naysayers out there about masks and social distancing, and yet I find this city has done an amazing job under your leadership, protecting one another and being bleeding edge on getting the economy back. So, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Cam, and I don't know your involvement, but our municipal Department of Health mandated masks first in the province of Ontario. Is that correct?
I actually do think so. In fact, I think we might have been first in Canada. I think we were told that we were going to be when we announced it, and so maybe we were close. But whatever, it's not like it's an award you win or something. But it is something that had to be done. And yeah, you definitely are putting yourself out there as a leader,
knowing
both
you're going to
positive and negative on an issue like that.
But what I loved sorry to interrupt you, Cam. But what I loved about the second piece I wanted to add, then, pardon the interruption, because I don't want to lose sight of that, and I don't want to assume. The next thing you guys did once we got that under control was you started to look at future ways to open up the economy based on that medical action. Like, hey, if we're all wearing masks and we're wearing them inside, and now we're protecting each other, how do we now go and get some of our economy back and get some restaurants out on patios? And you guys did that in the downtown core. And so the two went hand in hand, and I think it builds a lot of confidence. Was that on purpose, or was that just a logical chain of events as you guys were reacting to this pandemic?
It was a big push from myself. Really the foundation of a community really comes down to its economic ability, being the foundation of what we do. And if people have jobs, then they get a paycheck, and they get a paycheck, they can go and spend money. And when businesses are successful, they can hire more people. And Guelph has been for years, like one of the lowest unemployment rates in all of Canada. So, but I also knew that this was going to hit us pretty hard. So I started the mayor's task force on economic recovery right away, alongside, I need to give a shout out, alongside staff, the Chamber of Commerce, many other people in the community, Guelph Business Enterprise Center, Innovation Guelph, and so on. And so we just really pulled together with other community leaders, really hammering out sort of what could we do. And a lot of it was advocacy work at the beginning, to the province or to the federal government on behalf of some businesses. And then we started coming up with some programs locally, as you said, patios, the dining district downtown, funds that people could apply for to help them. These little things really did help. And it's been it's again put Guelph on the map a little bit, just not on the mask issue, as you said, but also on the economic side as well. And it was an eye-opening thing for me during the height of the shutdown. On social media, I shouldn't have done this, but I said, does anyone from a business I want to interview people about how their businesses are going? And I had like 100 people reach out to me. And so I was like hours, I was sitting right here at night at 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night, calling what was going. And boy, that really was an eye opener. It was a massive struggle for people. And I just felt absolutely horrible about what they were going through. So I just knew that we had to respond as best as we could during that time to help them.
It's great. And what I loved about it is I did see a little parallel in business. Like, the good businesses, they have their metrics, they're concerned about the financial results, but ultimately it comes down to people and the behaviors and doing the right things for people to generate the result and how you lead them and develop them. And I found the city went about it the right way and saying, okay, first of all, let's start by making each other safe. Okay, we got that one now. Now, how do we get people back to work to minimize the income so we're not impacting families as much? And how do we grow the economy again? And I just thought it was the right approach where, you can look at the example to the south of us, and it's been the reverse. It's
absolutely
been, politically driven. How do we protect the economy story, whether you believe it or not, in the South? And then, oh, by the way, this thing's going away. And okay, well, maybe now we'll mandate masks. Anyways, probably best we don't talk about U.S. politics right now.
No, but if I could just jump in and just say,
please.
I want to make sure this is said, is that it's not like the economy was sustained or starting to roar back to life to the degree that it was before the pandemic because of me. Like all of especially the bigger businesses, from a manufacturing point of view, I mean, they they pivoted immediately. Like they're like, okay, how can we make ventilators? You know, going from auto parts to ventilators, and like they're just amazing. They didn't need me to do that, right? They were able to figure that out. The small businesses in town that, you know, didn't have a website presence or something like that, they're like, boom, they again, they didn't need me to do that. So thank goodness we have such, you know, thought leaders and business leaders in the town, big or small or medium or entrepreneurial, whatever, that were able to be really forward thinking. It was just kind of nice to have the government alongside that, all that work that was happening from the community too. So I want to make sure that it's not, you know, I don't have like a cape on or a magic wand and it was all me. It was a group effort for sure.
Good for you for sharing that in those examples. Yeah, there's multiple, right? Like John Sleeman and the team at Spring Mill going to sanitizer right away. Dixon's doing this.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Like there was multiple examples, which again, as a resident, really makes you feel comfortable about the city you live in, right? And so I thought that was amazing. And again, to your point about the chamber, you know, I opened up a business in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Shakiba and the team, Jane and the team at the chamber has been phenomenal about giving me learning opportunities and networking through this and taking advantage of a difficult time to come out of this a little stronger. So good on all of the leaders across the corporations in the city. Let me ask you this. I tried to tell this on my first podcast I did alone. I ended up bawling, I think, at the end. So I don't want to put you in that position, but you know, I talked a little bit about who I am as a leader, and as I get older and almost 50 now, I reflect back on why are those values in me, the good and the bad. And the good ones are like, dad's a disciplinarian. He was in the military. Everything was get stuff done, youngest of 5 boys, and measure and save for your retirement, do all that stuff. So that was the strategic discipline. My mom was life of the party, Nova Scotia lady, right? Like everybody be having a good time, feed everybody first, she eats last, make sure everyone's in a good place. And so that servant piece that I continue to focus on, I'm realizing, wow, I had that my entire life. So do you have any personal influences that have defined your leadership style that you can point to that have helped you grow as a leader?
Well, yeah, I mean, right off the bat, you know, my mom and my dad for sure. I mean, they both instilled such great values and in me, and still do to this day. From a business point of view, interesting little thing that I say this story quite often actually is my grandfather, who had the insurance company, this insurance brokerage. I remember him saying to me when I first started there, he said, Cam, the sky is the limit in this business. I'm like, oh, okay. And then he came in even closer to me and he said, and Cam, always remember this, the more money you make, the more you can give away. And I was just like, that has always stuck with me. And so this drive to be successful has never been done to the detriment of putting others down, or without me having an opportunity to hopefully bless other people. So those types of values just have been really ingrained in me. And then I guess as a precursor or just a warning to my wife, especially when I became the mayor, I also just privately said to her, well, not privately since I'm telling the world now. But
the whole world isn't following me yet. You're telling about 359 people.
Yeah, it's fine. Is this, if I ever change who I am, and of course my wife would know the best, you got to tell me I got to get out. So if those values became compromised, if integrity became compromised, if those types of, that my character started to shift in ways that was not healthy, that like I needed her to be like, you know, calling me out on it. And then that should be the sign to get out, because and so far she hasn't said anything, which is good. But it is something that's an accountability sort of check with her. And so, yeah, I would say those are sort of, you know, here I am, I'm talking about family. From a business perspective, you know, my boss, one of my main bosses in town at one of the brokerages I used to work with. And actually this hit me pretty hard. He just passed away suddenly about 2 weeks ago, pretty young. And just thinking back over his influence of the 7 or 8 years out of the 16 that I was in the insurance industry, just thinking about how he shaped my life, about how to treat people from a customer service point of view, to always go above and beyond, integrity, relationships, all that was just embedded through his relationship with myself. And so that's been on my mind, I guess, just because of him passing away a couple of weeks ago. So that's good. And then on the political side, I would say I can't really point to someone too much. I know, well, Gloria Kovac would be one person for sure as a councilor locally. I would also say Norm Jerry was a mayor back in, for a long time in Guelph, back, and he's still alive. I visit with him a few times a year, and he's excellent. I always say to him, if he ever ran for mayor again, he's like 92 or something. I say, if you ever run for mayor, I'm going to vote for you. That's what I keep telling him, because he's so great. And then from afar, I always admired Preston Manning.
Okay.
And the reason why I admired him more so later in life, when I reflected back on it, was from the Canadian perspective, he was an absolute outsider. He started with nothing, an idea, a few people with an idea, and he grew that party to become the official opposition of the government at one point, almost actually forming government, and actually has been known to be he was the best leader we never had, as a lot of people say. And a lot of what he believes on fiscal conservative sort of principles in finance, but also on the importance of the environment, on social networks and things like that, the social safety net. I've always really admired Preston Manning a lot for what he did while a politician and what he's done since then.
Awesome. Let me shift to now that we've moved from the positive influences, and I'm certainly not looking for a negative influence here, but let's move to a little bit of, you touched on it a little earlier, and I touch on this with all of my guests. I believe we learn a lot through failure, and you touched on the fact that you lost in 2010, and you learned from that. Either through that example or some other ones that you have, could you give us a teachable point of view? And so I'm a big believer in reading business books. I don't read a ton of them, but I read impactful ones. And Noel Tishi's Leadership Engine is one that I refer to frequently. He talks about teachable point of view. That's how leaders teach other leaders. There's a story there. Do you want to share with us what you learned from that loss, if that's a big one in your life, or if there's a different one? Can you share how it's made you, what it was and what made you a better leader?
Yeah, I remember when I lost that election, that I remember right away. In fact, I still somewhere in files somewhere, I still have the piece of paper. I should probably try to find it after I'm done this interview with you. It was just one piece of paper, and I think what I did was I put it into 4 sections: what I did well, what I did wrong, what they did well, what they did wrong. And I just unloaded on that piece of paper with bullet points and things that I could think of. And I find that sometimes when mistakes happen, it's good to immediately reflect on them right away, so that you don't lose sight or forget some of the things that maybe tripped you up to get there. And and I remember pulling that piece of paper out when I ran for election 4 years later. And it was like, okay, I know what to do. I know what not to do. And so that, I think taking the time to reflect on the failure really helped me succeed in the next steps of my choices in life in general, going into politics. So that was something that was a moment, a teachable moment. I think is just reflect on failure right away. I think that's an important, if you're trying to make a bullet point, there it is. Reflect on failure right away. And then I would say I would say both from and I don't mind saying this out loud, but from a failure of even being a husband, a failure of early on in my marriage, it was maybe communication style. It was, there might've been a little bit of, thinking I know more, or I'm more knowledgeable, things like that. And those things created conflict early, in the first couple of years of marriage. And we've been married 21 years now, so it's all good. But thank goodness for her patience. That was a rough spot. That was a failure moment, I would say, on a personal level. But the lessons learned through that conflict and through those failures and getting help from others. I think that's another key piece, is that you can't go things on your own. Sometimes you do have to reach out to others for help. Is that that helped me in my own personal life, and it bled into my business life, into politics, into the other things that I do as well. So those are kind of two examples that I would state. Off the top of my head.
It's great. It's funny, again, parallel, right? Leadership's leadership, regardless of the industry, how you deal with failure. You talked about, you almost did what I refer to as a post-mortem, like the minute you lost that election, you did a little SWOT analysis. Where was I strong? Where was I weak? What's the opportunity? What's the threat? You created the gap and you closed it on the next election cycle. We used to do that when I was running BMO Field in Toronto. We had never opened a soccer stadium at MLSE. It was new, it was outdoors, it was crazy. The fans were nuts. And every event I sit down with my leadership team and say, okay, where did we screw up? Well, you know what? We've got pass-offs of alcohol happening in the bathroom, and we're going to lose our license with the AGCO if we don't get that corrected. What do we do for the next event? And so, it's a parallel thing. It's like not being afraid of those gaps, but being aware and closing them for the next time.
And if I could jump in on that, I do that quite often. And people may not realize it, but no, now they will, since I'm telling everybody. But when I go to businesses and I cut the ribbon, the mayor is invited to these types of things all the time. And it's a big, exciting occasion, right? Like, you've come to the point, you're cutting the ribbon, you're opening the doors of this business. I do all that. And then for just a moment, I will pull the owner away, or the business owners or the managers, just away from the crowd a little bit, just before I leave, and I'll say, can you just tell me, this is a great moment, but what went wrong? What went wrong before we cut the ribbon today? What was your customer service experience like with the city of Guelph? What was it like dealing with permits? What was it like dealing with inspections? What could we do better? Almost like an exit interview, even though they're not exiting, they're opening a store. Yeah. But it's like, what could we do better? And I always drive that home with not just stores and opening, but with everything I do every day. It's like, how am I making things better in this city for people every single day? And so that is something that I always strive to do as well, because sometimes through that failure or the bad experience that someone has had occurred to them through dealing with the city or dealing with me, then I like to I don't like my head to hit the pillow at night without that being resolved, or at least knowing what I could do the next days and the next weeks to make it better. And I find that that's been really a good learning thing too. So to admit you don't have it all together all the time. You've got, even though on a good occasion, like cutting a ribbon, you still got to take the time to say, what went wrong? What could we do better? And those types of things are really important.
Yeah, it's a continuous improvement mindset, which is phenomenal. Especially, citizens expect that of their leaders, and for you to lead by example is tremendous. Simon Sinek speaks a lot about the infinite game, and that, if you're in leadership to eventually win and become perfect, you're in the wrong room, because you have to constantly evolve, and it's a life pursuit, because people are always changing and society's always changing, and you need to keep up and serve. So that's amazing. you've been great with your time. If you got a few more minutes, I'd like to ask you three or four more questions.
Yeah, I'm fine. As long as you tell me, you go ahead. Yep.
I just want to be respectful of your time. I know you're a busy guy and you do a lot of this stuff. So we touched on it earlier about critics on social media and the fact that you have 140,000 employees, really from my perspective, that you're serving and you're leading, being a citizen of the city.
Yep. Yeah.
I had Richard Petty on, who I worked for, obviously, so a little more background, and I knew I could ask this question, but I'm going to ask you. Richard, literally, when the Raptors weren't doing well in the Rob Babcock years, they had websites up for firerichardpetty.com. They had planes flying over the city, and he took a ton of heat. And what I told him that myself and other leaders in the organization always admired is his behavior never changed. He really didn't change how he showed up in the office. He was positive. He continued to stand for what he believed in. And when I asked him that, he actually opened up and he said, it sucked. It really hurt. Like, I went home and I carried that. And he goes,
yeah,
but I couldn't show you. That wasn't my job. My job was to lead. Because, hey, if I start shrugging the shoulders, what are you guys going to do? And what's that telling the team? And what's that telling the ticket sales guys and gals? And so how do you do that, Cam? How do you walk away after taking a little bit of a beating and come back positive the next day?
I've gotten better at it. I think it was a lot worse, especially as I became the mayor. So into my second term now, I think, it's always, people always say, especially about politicians, you must have really grown a thick skin for this. It's that kind of a thing. And it's kind of like, haha, yeah. Well, maybe a little, but, it really, I have found it's the same exact people that are always the ones nipping at your heels. And so I don't, and I mean this authentically, I don't discount the negativity or their complaints. I think it just has always bothered me in the manner in which they present their complaints, their approach. And I am an easygoing guy. Like, I really, truly am. And if people want to have a conversation with me about a certain issue and they have their certain opinion about it, more often than not, we're probably closer on the issue than people think. But if you come at it from a position of just hostility and wanting to belittle people and bring people down, that's what puts people's backs up, including politicians sometimes. So I think I've learned to see that it seems to be the same people over and over again. And so, and then the last thing I would say on that is I just don't look at the stuff online that's really that negative. I see it, but I don't try to engage too much in it. And when I'm out and about in the community, when I'm going for dinner at a patio, or when I'm in the grocery store or at a garage sale or whatever, those people the people that aren't online, I find that they're very supportive, but they're not online saying it.
Right.
So I find that there's a lot of keyboard warriors, and I respect that, and I still read it and I'll take it in. I still do that pulse check. Correction, education, reflection, whatever that is, I still will do that, but I don't take it as much as a beating, I think, as I used to.
Good. So keeping it all in context.
Yes.
So on that note about being out there and being criticized, if you don't mind, share with me about how your family plays a role in all of that, because Rachel's out in a public setting. She's with you at events. She sings. She's got a tremendous voice. I've seen her sing at the home builders, the Storm games. Your kids are on social media. By the way, your son has some mad hops. I just saw his last.
Yes.
For a 5'7" kid to jump high. Anyways, they're out there, and you as a family seem so positive. And I know I'm not naive enough to know it doesn't come with its challenges with their dad as a mayor or their husband as a mayor. How do you manage that as a family and still remain public and positive and engaged in the community?
Yeah, that's great. Speaking of Rachel singing, she actually sang at BMO Field a couple of years ago. She sang the national anthem for the Toronto Argonauts and Calgary Stampeders game there once. Yeah.
Did you back her out on drums? Back her up on drums?
No, interpretive dance. It was interpretive
oh
dance.
Boy.
Yes.
Oh boy. I'll edit that
out. Well, thank goodness I really do have a fun family. We love to have fun. We really do. We're always laughing, trying a new adventure. So we almost don't mind sharing a little bit of that online, sharing it with the public. And we are positive people. We try to be in our own lives. And so that's maybe what's coming through on social media, which is fine. We love to make people laugh. I think we're a funny family, and we love to make each other laugh and make others laugh. And we don't mind sharing that. I would say that during the election, it got pretty bad with some things online, especially that were done against both Rachel and my kids, like extremely bad. Fake accounts being set up, vulgar pictures being used to depict my wife and children. I mean, awful stuff. And then, it's even crept up a little bit even during this term again, around certain issues. All of a sudden this stuff will pop up again. And so thank goodness my kids are good about it. They're strong about it. They're strong in themselves and what they're all about. And I'm not saying all that to victim Cam and victim Rachel and the kids. I'm just saying it can get bad. Yeah. But we're good about it. And we're just a normal family, just trying to have a good time and going through the rest of life with struggles as everybody else. And I think, I don't know. I think it's kind of good to see that authenticity side amongst politicians. Personally, I don't do it because of that. I just do it because it's fun, and we do it because it's fun. But I don't know. I think people appreciate that we're just a family. We're a mom and a dad, and we're taking our kids to soccer practice and football, and trying to make ends meet like everybody else, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think it's that fine balance. People know, they've seen the results you've had in the city as the leader. You know when to be professional and you know when to be authentic, because I think, I try and share this in businesses. We want to be able to relate to our leaders so we can trust them. And if there's no common ground, how do you do that? You're always have this huge divide, and I may admire you as a leader, but because I don't know you, it's harder for me to trust you. And I think you and the family have always done a nice balance of that. And I know that's not always easy. So good on all of you. Will Rogue talk one day?
I'm sorry?
Will Rogue talk one day? Is it Rogue, your dog?
Yeah,
Rachel posts about Rogue.
He's over on the couch sleeping right now. He's right over here. Yeah. But
I'm waiting.
Yeah, he's a great dog. He wasn't a great dog for a couple of years, but he's come into his own now. He's got to the puppy stage, I think, now. So
we got a little puppy now to add to a
Actually, one thing on the social media thing too,
please.
Just something I'd share is I am purposeful on what I use the different social media things for. So my Facebook Mayor page is more very informational, factual. Here's my stuff. Or here's stuff that's going on in the city that people should be aware of. I try my best at that.
You use Facebook Live really well for that stuff. I was going to mention.
Yeah, it's very, more mayoral, if I could say. I don't know. It's very factual. My Instagram is 100% fun. It is, I'm the mayor, but I'm going to post a picture about me drumming or my wife's shoes or my 1988 Dodge Caravan. And oh, by the way, here's a little something about the city too, but it's like 95% just fun. And I did that on purpose. I did that fully on purpose.
Your tapes have been awesome. Love it.
It's just, you know what? I'm the mayor, but I'm also a guy that's got all these crazy hobbies and likes and dislikes. And I'm going to have fun on Instagram. And then Twitter is more conversational. It's factual. It's banter back and forth. This is information. This is what I feel like. And then when it's really important for really setting some things out, I have a blog. Now that blog will automatically push things to Twitter and to Facebook. So I'm very intentional on the different tools in my toolbox and what I'm kind of using each thing for. And I think most people get that. So they, you know, they can, it's not like, I don't know. I would find it personally, I would find it to be boring if everything was it's the same thing on every medium. It's no, I try. Sorry if I said, but I
Thanks
try.
for calling me out.
My best. Yeah, I try my best to make it a little bit different.
And here's what I love about it, Cam, and honestly, I think it resonates with most people. Like anything, it's not going to resonate with everybody. There's going to be critics. But I try and, you know, now that I'm consulting, I'm helping business leaders with, you know, their branding, sales, leadership, whatever that may look like. And one of the things that aggravates me is when you see a leader engage in social media, but they do it through a PR firm, as an example. Yeah. And you can tell. And you're just like, no, everyone wants to know who you are, right or wrong. Show us who we're dealing with. And I think you've always done that well in each of the mediums. And I didn't plan to ask this, but you brought it up. Was this intentional? Like, how did you get so deep into social? Do you have a background in it? Or is it just you being you and managing those sites? Like, you do use them well, and you do interchange the information, and you do engage differently on each of them. Did you come in knowing that, or is this something you've picked up along the way?
I think a little bit picked up along the way. I do remember when my younger sister helped me a few years ago. I remember it was like Christmas time or something. She's like, do you have an Instagram? I was like, what's Instagram? And she got that account. I was like, I think it was maybe her advice. She's like, make this fun, make this all about fun, you know? So I think I purposely made those things that way. However, I will say I have always had a knack with also branding, marketing. I really like that. And I guess if someone were to try to say, if you have a brand, Cam, what is it? It's Cam. When people interact with me, either personally or online, it's like, yeah, that's Cam. And right out of the gate, I even told people, don't call me Mayor Guthrie. Just call me Cam. Or Mayor Cam if you have to. In a formal setting, like in council chambers, it's Mayor Guthrie.
Yes, of course.
But outside of that, hey, there's Cam. It's Cam. And people get to know me. And that's my brand. And my brand is I care. I want the city to be better every day. I want people to be successful. I want to help the vulnerable. I want to make our economy strong. I want to make our environment clean. I want us to be the best city. I'm competitive. I want new businesses to come here. And I want to make people laugh and enjoy their time as I'm the leader. And that's my brand. And hopefully that kind of just weaves itself through, whether we're talking about my wife's shoes or we're talking about a $500 million budget. Yeah, it's Cam.
What a great way to summarize your brand. It's funny, marketing agencies make millions of dollars a year defining logos and brand statements and mission statements to communicate to the market who they are. And Scott Stratton, who's a speaker out of Oakville, who's fantastic, he wrote a book called Unselling and Unmarketing, resonated me.
Oh yeah, I've heard that book. Yeah.
And he said, you know what your brand is? Your customer's last interaction with your company. That's your brand.
Yep, 100%.
That's you. The last time anyone sees your communication or engages with you, it's always you and it's always authentic. So there's no confusing it. Like, you either love the Cam brand, you're okay with the Cam brand. Yep. You might not like the Cam brand, but you know what it is, and that's all you can ask for as a citizen following a leader in the city. So I'll leave you with two questions because you've been super gracious with your time. One, how do you expect city staff to lead? And how do you influence it?
So having the right city staff in the positions in the first place is always key. Having them to be risk takers should be okay, within parameters, of course. And to give them delegated authority to be able to make decisions that are, again, focused on the customer, the citizen, making the city better. Those are the things that I look for. Now, I and council do not get to hire all 2,000 people that work for the city. we only hire one person or fire one person, and that's the CAO. Yeah. And so really that culture that I just, gave some bullet points to there, that culture amongst the staff starts with him or her. And then of course, really from an influence point of view, it also starts from the mayor and the council. And so it's a team effort there. Yes, the mayor is the one who probably works by default the most closely with the CAO, especially in Guelph, because councilors are part-time. The mayor is full-time. So I'm at, my office is 10 feet away from his office. And so, yes, we have hallway conversations and maybe influence in that way. But at the end of the day, I respect the fact that the CAO has an obligation to the corporation. And so as much as there might be a CAM position or a CAM idea, there's a respectfulness between the two of us to say, well, that might be a CAM position, but for the best of the corporation and our professional staff's position, we feel you need to go in this direction. And then ultimately it's up to council to decide. And that's an interesting thing in municipal politics, and we could talk about this forever. I don't mean to get out of it, but to get onto this tangent. But in Canada, you have the weak mayor system. In the States, you have the strong mayor system. So in the States, you have mayors that can hire and fire a chief of police, that can, call up the commissioner, mayors can veto. Mayors have veto power. Mayors can hire their own executive team and appoint different people. You get none of that in Canada. None. In Canada, it's actually called the weak mayor system. And the mayor is just one vote out of however many councillors there are. Even though the mayor gets elected by the entire community and councillors only get elected in the individual wards. I get elected by, 20,000 people or so, and I get one vote. And someone that gets elected with only 2,000 votes, guess what? They get one vote. It's an equal vote. And so I think from a leadership perspective, influence is, yes, important to staff, but influence is also very critical, to the best of my ability, to the councillors who are the decision makers, because I'm only one vote.
Got it. Well said. So leadership through influence. So you can, again, get everyone's buy-in to the agenda that you think is the best for the cities, because ultimately in Canada, you don't have the right to make the call.
No.
You've got to lead people there if you really believe in it that strongly. You don't have a veto.
And that's where a lot of the pushback on social media, as you brought up a couple of times, has come. It's like, well, why don't you just do this?
Can't.
It's like, I can't. I don't have this cape or this superpower or the ability to boss people around, fire them, direct them. Direction only comes from council, not the mayor.
So you're telling me that hospitals are the provinces? No, I'm just
amen to that. I want to get a shirt that says hospitals are provincial.
Every time I see you engage, and you don't give yourself enough credit, and I know, and I get it, but like, people don't understand that. I see you on Facebook Live at the end of a long day after a council meeting. It's 9:30 or 10 at night, and you're out there engaging with the community. But I give you that kudos, but I also know that's where a lot of that friction comes up. So God bless your patience. Having said that, I'll leave you with this last question and a half. One, future plans for Mayor Cam. If you're willing to reveal them, what are your thoughts on the future, specific or general? And then any words of wisdom for anyone thinking about getting into public service?
I can see myself running again for mayor. I just love it. I love it. And I just want the city to be better and better all the time. It really is what drives me. You know that old saying, find a job you love and you'll never work a day. That one. I feel like I'm in it right now. It would be really difficult, I think, for me to not be in it. And I don't mean that like in a elitist way or anything. It's just, I love it. I love it. I love helping people. So I hope I get to continue to do it. I think I can see myself running again, but at the same time, I'm also a doors open type of a person. So if like an opportunity arose If I felt it was a great opportunity to shift a little bit to something else, and it would, still be okay with the family and whatnot, I would absolutely explore something else too. So I think it's good to kind of keep your eye open. As you said at the beginning, I have 140,000 bosses, and they get to decide whether they love me. It doesn't matter if I love the city; they get to decide if they love me.
Well said.
And it is there's some anxiety around that, actually. It's like,
it's funny. And one of the and we'll get on to the second question, but just to add, one of the things I shared in the blog a few years back is, like, I think sports properties, although private organizations, should be in a similar environment. Season seat holders should get a vote, and the CEO and the hockey ops, and imagine the performance then, right? And I put in a blog that, because I'm a huge Habs fan, as you know.
Yes, I know.
If Montreal ever came calling for me to run the team, that would be a condition. My first press conference would be 3 years from now. That's all I need. You vote me out of the job and I go back home, or you vote me in and I stay. I think there's a lot of accountability there. And
there is.
And you gotta please your customers. So anyways, words of wisdom. Words of wisdom for someone coming into public service.
Well, really, 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 really think about it. It depends on the position, I would say. If you're going into it with, well, I would say this: if you're going into it either as a councilor, which is in Guelph considered part-time, or as a mayor, or as an MPP or MP or whatever, you really need to really think about how it's going to affect your family, if you have a family. And really, like, you're going to really need to really think about that. That is something that I consistently think about more often than not. Is this worth it for the family? And so far so good, but that is something that I do think about a lot. And Rachel and I talk about a lot. And then the other part is, I think one of the things that I would suggest to somebody is, if you're thinking about running and if you win, you must put in boundaries right away about when you're engaging and when you're not. When, at 5 o'clock, are you not available anymore? Are you not available on the weekends? Because the instant demand from the public is overwhelming. And then I'm a customer service type of person, right? So if I don't get back to somebody in a day, it bothers me. But when I have 40,000 followers on social media and it's just me doing it, I don't have staff that does it. It's just me. How can I physically even be able to do that? So it becomes an issue about boundaries. Put whatever those boundaries are, put them in place right away, and sort of rules of engagement around when you will respond, when you will not respond, how you're going to go about that. Because I think as much as people love the fact that, oh, you're so available and so engaging, I heard that when I had 6,000 followers when I started this. Now I've got 40,000, or I don't know, 35 or 40,000, and it's just constant. It's just constant. And I, as a customer service person, I want to get back to those people as much as possible. Now my battery thing just popped out. I don't know if the screen went blank there for you there.
Yeah, the picture went in, but we're almost done now anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And then the final thing I would say is reach out to somebody that's in it or has done it.
Okay.
And I have had a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, I'm thinking about running for council. Can we get together for a coffee? I've had people reach out to me from other cities that are thinking about running for mayor. They want to talk to me, get my advice on that kind of stuff. And a lot of people engage with me on those types of questions. And I love talking to people about that, especially young people, because it seems to me still that, politicians have to be old and retired or something like that. And you got to get through your other career before you get into this. And there's probably more risk actually getting into this type of line of work younger, because again, you're up for job interview every 4 years. But you know what? If you have a desire to help and to serve and to make a difference, don't wait till you're 65. Put your name in right now. Let's go. Give it a go. And so I really like to engage with young people to say there's an opportunity to make a difference through politics, and give it a go. Don't wait.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Cam. I'd like to leave you with a couple words, if you don't mind, and
Please.
a little setup here. To be clear, I've never campaigned for Cam Guthrie. I haven't gone out and helped tally the group and get everyone excited. I will share that I voted for you. Clearly, I am a fan.
Thank you.
But I will thank you, because I'm sure you don't get this enough, Cam, and I'm sure you don't do the job for it. But you know what people don't see, as I mentioned earlier, is all the events you're at. The way you welcomed my family when we came to Guelph, when you didn't know us from wherever. Like, we were just people that were in the city. You took the time to talk to us because you were engaged in what you committed to. The stuff you do late at night to still make yourself accessible on your time, and I was going to say the comedy, the sense of humor that you bring to it. Doing bedtime stories through the pandemic that I also did. We did that together through Alicia and, oh my God, Amy. All that stuff you always do, and you're engaged when you do it. You just serve the city. You're its biggest fan. So if you don't get enough, thank you for everything you do for Guelph.
Thank you. I do really appreciate it. And again, I think you're doing a great job, even though you're a Habs fan.
let's leave it at that, right? Thank you, Cam. I really appreciate you doing this. I think people are going to get a lot of value out of this chat.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to reach out to me about anything, they can. I hope you don't mind. I'll just do a little plug here. Twitter @Cam Guthrie, Instagram Mayor Cam Guthrie, and my Facebook page is Mayor Cam Guthrie. And you can always email me at City Hall for direct sort of city issues, mayor@guelph.ca.
Tremendous. Thank you, Cam, once again. Appreciate you being on the podcast.
Yeah, you too. All the best, and I'll see you around when we are out and around more often.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cam.
Okay. Yep. Bye.
See ya.